Welcome again to Reflections on the Community and its Cultures. This time around, ringing in the spirit of the season and an important conference coming up. Later, Andy Amick will talk about the Salvation Army's work and how the Christmas bell ringing supports that work so importantly. First up, Sonia Larimore will bring us information about an elder conference coming up around our communities. All that's coming up on Reflections. Reflections continues now as we welcome to the program Andy Amick, who is here to talk about, it is definitely the Christmas season that we're talking about, and that's one of the times that the organization you represent and work with and work for and have for a while is heavily identified with, and that's the Salvation Army. And let's talk a little bit about this Andy Amick guy, first of all. Again, you're fairly new to our immediate area, right?
I am, yes.
Okay. How long have you been around this region?
I've been in Kansas City now for about 6 weeks.
Oh.
But my parents are actually ministers in the Salvation Army. So this is my second roundabout in Kansas.
Really?
So I was here for, second, third, and fourth grade, in the early 90s.
So they worked this area during that period?
My dad was the finance secretary for Kansas and Western Missouri when we were here before.
Okay, so it's kind of a silly question. And how'd you get into this, right? No,
well,
I mean, the fact that your parents do anything is no guarantee that that's going to appeal to you as an individual, right? We all know that. My dad was a carpenter, and I'd kill my thumb if I were a carpenter. So how did you get involved in the Salvation Army?
And that's an interesting question because my parents wanted for me to be a minister in the Salvation Army, and I kind of went the opposite way with my life for a little bit of time there. And
you didn't go crazy or anything?
I wouldn't say crazy,
okay.
But I got myself into some trouble. And
okay. Well, good.
I sort of had a realization that I was going nowhere, and I was getting there pretty fast, and wanted to turn my life around.
Yeah.
I had the corps officers, which are the ministers at the Salvation Army Church, came to visit me. I was managing a restaurant at the time, and encouraged me to come to church, and a job opportunity opened up there, and I kind of gave my life over to the Lord at that point in time. And
that's cool.
Had an opportunity to work with youth in our community center on the west side of Indianapolis, and that's kind of where I decided working with a company whose focus is on helping others was something I was extremely interested in.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting because the Salvation Army is one of those organizations that has a bunch of identities.
It does.
In a way, you're comfortable calling it the company, and that's, rather than the church. You're not a minister in the church. You're a person who's working with the company.
You wear many hats with the Salvation Army, that's for sure.
We're here to talk partly about, again, one of the things that's become, for better or for worse, a real identifying thing with the Salvation Army, ringing the bells, right?
Yeah.
That's been going on for how long?
I wish I knew off the top of my head, because I was just kind of doing some research on the history of that, and I know it started in San Francisco on the docks.
Yeah.
And I with the fog and everything, I think it was an easy way to identify, and it's just something that's carried on, and I don't know the significance of the ringing of the bell, but I know it gets people's attention.
Mm-hmm. And again, that thing exists in our culture for long enough that, it was the key to a Broadway musical, and like the 40s, something like that. So
Before
it was
my
known.
time.
No, mine too, young man. But so it has been like I say, an institution involved with the Salvation Army. In a way, it's kind of comforting to know that you guys are still doing that.
Yeah, and a lot of people respond positively to our presence outside of stores, and it is, I don't want to say synonymous with Christmas, but it is one of those things that, at Christmas time, it is something you typically see.
Oh yeah. How do folks get into that?
Well, there's quite a few ways. If you're in an area where the Salvation Army has a church, you can contact that church, and they'll coordinate all of the bell ringing efforts. Mm-hmm. Now here we've been blessed to have the opportunity to work with Susan Hill, and if that was something that you're interested in and wanting to volunteer to ring the bell, I know you can call the Community Access Center 331-5115, mm-hmm. And they can get you going with volunteering to ring the bell. And groups, children are excellent at it because kids draw people in. Kids just have that enthusiasm and that energy. So, really, come one, come all. We need the help.
Yeah. Susan Hill, of course, is involved, works for county in our area, and also was heavily involved in the creation of that community access center. And I don't know how familiar you are with it because you're kind of a newcomer, but it's sort of a conglomeration and information place to where focuses, go out to the agencies that are doing that kind of thing. And again, she has said that you're free to use them as a point of reference, to get people involved in that. If somebody wants to volunteer to ring the bell for the Salvation Army, what are they volunteering for?
Well, I guess it depends on the elements that are in the forecast. It could be just hanging out in the sunshine like we've had, and that's what it's funny that it's Christmas season because we got 60-degree weather outside. You wouldn't know it. But really, it's an excellent opportunity to meet people and kind of get in the Christmas spirit. And like I said, it's easier when you do it in groups. If you have a family that wants to get out, or a youth group at a church, a group of people from work that want to get together and do it, when you can be in that social environment and have someone to kind of bounce off of and have some fun with, that's a great thing.
I'm making a leap of faith here, pardon that expression too, in our conversation, but I'm assuming from what you're saying that if people get involved in ringing the bells for the Salvation Army, it doesn't mean they're signing up for the Salvation Army, does it?
No. They'd have to become ordained ministers to be officers in the Salvation Army.
This is not a recruitment drive for the Salvation Army. I just want to make
really,
that very clear.
It's our way of raising funds to assist the community throughout the next calendar year.
Mm-hmm. And where do those funds go? That's, of course, an unanswerable question, but kind of go through the process of where the funds go. And is this a prime source of your funding?
It's not just the bell ringing. The Salvation Army will do newspaper inserts. We have online red kettles. There's multiple ways of money that comes in, and then you have people who will leave money in their will to the Salvation Army, or who just donate throughout the year to the Salvation Army. Mm-hmm. But the kettles is a big part of it, and essentially what happens with the money is 88% of that money stays right here in northern Montgomery County, and that money is used.
So where the funds are raised
is where they stay.
That's where basically the chunk stays.
Correct. And even with the online kettles, if you were to give a donation on a credit card online, they go off of your billing zip code. So if your zip code is here in Independence, that money stays right here. It goes directly towards your kettle.
And of course, it should be obvious that that never results in a glut of cash for one area, does it?
No.
You never wind up with $4 million in Independence, do you?
No. We could get there, though.
There's always a need for that.
Who knows?
So what kind of services then does that do those funds turn into?
That can be anything from food. They'll assist with rent, utilities, vision, prescriptions, school supplies, lodging for people that have hit hard times and didn't come in time to get help with their rent and need a place to stay to get back on their feet. Mm-hmm. So I mean, there's a plethora of things that this money can help people with.
Right. And again, I'm not speaking from a point of knowledge here, but I think I'm fairly safe in saying that at no point in that process either are people being recruited for the church.
That is correct.
Because I think there's some misunderstanding about that. I think people think if I fall into hard times and I get funds from the Salvation Army, they're going to preach at me every Tuesday.
We're going to come knock on your door with a hat and a tie and try to get you to sign up.
But you're not going to do that.
No, that doesn't happen.
That's not the mission. Do you have any idea how that mission developed? Many churches, of course, have that service arm that goes far beyond, Saturday or Sunday or whatever. But do you have any idea what the history of this is?
As far as recruitment into the Salvation Army?
No, just in terms of this focus of that form of salvation, saving people from hard times.
It goes back to the founder, William Booth. And he just wanted to save souls. And it's one thing the Salvation Army focuses on. They have a focus. I shouldn't say primarily, but they focus on adult rehabilitation. Mm-hmm. And one of the things in rehabilitating oneself is reestablishing yourself spiritually. Because what they focus on with those rehab centers is getting people off of the substance that they're abusing, and then getting them back into the workforce, but also having that spiritual foundation. And that goes back to the Salvation Army's core, and that's part of just the humanitarian side of the Salvation Army.
Yeah, it's when people encounter the cold, cruel world, it can wreck them. You can just completely lose focus.
And I've seen that, firsthand.
Yeah, you can completely lose focus on your life. And having agencies such as the Salvation Army and some other, public agencies, it can literally save lives, and it certainly can save quality of lives.
Well, and that's one of the beautiful things with the Community Action Center is having the opportunity to work together with other agencies that want to do the same thing that we're doing. Mm-hmm. And when we work together and kind of pool our resources, we can help so many more people.
Okay, let's get back to the bell ringing here before we run out of clock completely. You still are looking for people to ring them bells.
Yes.
And how much time are you going to be asking them for?
That kind of fluctuates.
You're not talking about 40 hours a week, though.
Not 40 hours a week. If you want to do that, we're not going to turn you away. But no, just 4 hours on a Saturday. It doesn't even have to be that. An hour is an hour, and people would really be surprised at how productive they can be in that 1 hour. And then what that money turns into, and essentially what you're doing, as I said, if they're helping with rent, that helps keep someone under a roof for another month.
Yeah, it's very, very important work, and it's great that the Salvation Army has been around for a good long while doing that kind of work. And again, if you're interested in working the bell ringing duty in our area, you can get in touch with the Salvation Army through the Community Access Center in Independence at 331-5115, and they can point you to you guys, and you guys can point us to the place where the bell and the kettle are.
Correct.
and things start going from there. So Andy Amick, you've been involved in the Salvation Army in a way the most of your life.
Correct,
and
yes.
now is really dedicated at it for about 5 years, you said?
Yeah.
Yeah, great stuff. Thanks for spending some of your time with us.
Thank you
We
so
enjoyed
much.
the conversation.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you for joining us for this edition of Reflections.